Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. It means we're brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. Fired up to be here. Hope your work week is off to a good start. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Monday night football tonight. Saints and Chiefs from Arrowhead. We will certainly spend some time getting you ready for that one. Ross Jackson, Locked on Saints, and of course, LouisianaSports.net. Going to be with us in 30 minutes to preview things from Kansas City. He got up there yesterday. We'll see if he got any barbecue, if he's seen Taylor Swift, and maybe talk a little Saints offensive line injuries as well with Ross Jackson. Of course, Denton Day with us in hour number 2, recapping the weekend in college football, and it was a wild one in across the country, really, but more so in the Southeastern Conference. Plenty to do over the next 2 hours. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on this Monday. So let's get into it. And back, I'm not going to run from this. We've got to take this head on.
Yep.
I don't know if this is good or bad, but we understand that on Friday, I determined when picking my SEC games against the number that we were going to break the game down, come to a conclusion, and then pick the opposite.
That's what we did.
I'm not a very smart person. I can't beat Las Vegas in wagering on athletic competitions. I already know this, which is why I don't really do it all that often. And so I decided to go through and go with the opposite on every game. And when the dust settled, that produced a 5-1 record.
The Costanza pick.
So the question is, is this a good thing that I've figured this out and understand that I just have to fade myself and I'll do well? Or is that a bad thing because I'm so terrible at this that I have to resort to this? Is this,
it's not
have we found something positive or are we just admitting defeat?
We have found something positive, Hunt, because whether or not it's the opposite of what your analysis concludes for you, it's still you deciding to make that pick, even though it's contrary to what you believe. So it's still your decision to do that. So at the end of the day, if you go 5-1, you went 5-1, whether or not you chose who you thought was going to be the right choice or not.
I mean, these picks were terrible, though.
But there's
weren't. No way you should be taking Auburn. They're awful.
But you
That's
did.
a cover. I took Vanderbilt.
They won, Hunt. I don't know if you saw that game, but
I did see that game. Just as I tweeted out a little earlier, just a hunch. If you want to hang around a radio 2 hours from right now, I would probably suggest looking into that because they'll talk a little bit more Alabama and Vanderbilt coming up on After Further Review. But I want to do it now. Let's talk about the SEC schedule. I did go 5-1 of my picks. We'll see if we stick to the Costanza coming up on Friday. I got 4 days to figure that out. But we've got to talk about the day that was in the Southeastern Conference. And that starts with Alabama at Vanderbilt. As I'm watching the game, you see the final and you see Vanderbilt win the game. And I just kind of thought, man, that's funny that Alabama just lost to Vanderbilt. Year one after Saban, haha, that's hilarious. And I guess I was just looking at it from the Alabama perspective. I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about the Vanderbilt perspective on sports, specifically football. But I've gotten inundated on Twitter over the last 24, 48 hours with the Vanderbilt side of this thing. You've got multiple post-game show callers into Vanderbilt's post-game show crying, some hysterically, about spending that time with family and seeing that. You've got folks taking pictures on the field. I mean, it's this is quite literally the greatest win in the history of Vanderbilt football. And I just had not put it into that context when it happened because I was too busy focusing on the Alabama lens of it. And the Alabama lens is more interesting to us, certainly. But I do have to pause and give one moment to hey, that's the greatest day in Vanderbilt history. This is the one that they will talk about like we talk about Florida in 97. And we've gone on to bigger and better things since Florida in 97, and Vanderbilt's not going to do that.
Okay, I agree mostly. But
mostly? There's nothing, you can't disagree with that.
In no realm and any
I know,
realm
that's
of
the
the
point.
world.
That's why I didn't consider it properly.
I know, but what I'm saying is there was never any kind of possibility that anyone could have ever thought that Vanderbilt would beat Alabama in a football game, and it happened. Okay, this is like the Big Short. No one thought that the mortgages could ever. No one thought default. No one ever. How can you bet against the housing market in the U.S.? It's impossible, and it happened. You can't just count anything out at this point. You really can't.
Look, and there's a bigger picture conversation to be had here about like why these upsets are happening and why Northern Illinois is beating Notre Dame and why Vanderbilt's beating Alabama and why Tennessee's losing to Arkansas.
14
and, like,
points.
There's a bigger discussion to be had, but it's probably not going to be today where I had that discussion. I'm more so just talking about the actual games as they went on. But in watching that game, like Ole Miss beat Bama in one of those freeze years. And they got obscene breaks. The one where was it Wallace or no? It was Chad Kelly.
It was Chad Kelly.
He dropped the snap and then he was getting tackled and flung it in the air and the ball bounced off of 2 Alabama defenders and then right into the hands of the guy who ran it all the way in for a touchdown. Like that's what you would have imagined happened in this game. It didn't. Vanderbilt lined up, and they had an incredible game plan that involved a ton of misdirection and option stuff with Pavia, and Bama couldn't freaking stop them. They could not stop Vanderbilt. It was unbelievable to watch. They ran it 54 times. They were deliberate. They executed very well, and I thought the plan was just exceptional. I told you on Friday I thought it would probably be the day that Pavia took a shot and it was not going to go well. He did run it 20 times, but he made it work. And it wasn't like that. My favorite thing about Vanderbilt statistically in this game was not that they ran it for 166 yards, not that they ran it 54 times, not that they scored 40 points. My favorite thing was they didn't even bust any long plays. Their longest run of the game was 13 yards. It was just a methodical play-by-play evisceration of Alabama's defense. Vanderbilt. It was absolutely incredible. And the play that end makes to come off the edge and deck Milroe and create that sack fumble, like that's not a flukish play either for a turnover. That's just straight up winning at the point of attack and delivering the blow. And Milroe wasn't ready for it, and he coughs it up. And meanwhile, on the other side, like Bama didn't run it all that well. Like 4 yards a carry is okay, but they ran for 84 yards. And they didn't really have the ball all that often. It was Vanderbilt just controlled the clock, controlled the game on the ground, and it's one of the most unbelievable statistics I've seen in an SEC game where Vanderbilt had the football more than 42 minutes. Time of possession was 42 minutes and 8 seconds to 17:52.
Now, Auburn scored 35 points in 18 minutes of possession. So almost every time they got the ball, they scored. But Vanderbilt just ran the ball
and just
salted the game away.
Up and just didn't care. Just methodical. And then, to win the fourth quarter against Alabama, it's one thing if you win the first or the second quarter, you come out, you got some plans, but to win the fourth quarter against Alabama, when all the pressure becomes on you to act, oh my God, you're here, you might actually do this. And that's when you all the time see teams just completely fall apart. And Vanderbilt just never fell apart. They just kept making play after play after play. And Bama just couldn't stop them. And so it's funny, and we'll all laugh about it, and Feinbaum's ratings are going to be through the roof today, as they should be. It'll be hilarious. The people will call in. It'll be a circus. And I'm here to revel in that misery, because the first thing I knew when Saban moved on was there's going to be a bump in the road here or there, and Alabama's not really going to know how to deal with it because there were so few bumps over the course of 15 years. I would suggest that people who said that Alabama had the next Nick Saban or the next great coach after the Georgia game last week were too premature. And if you're going to sit here and tell me that this thing's about to fall apart like a house of cards, I would say you're probably premature as well. Bama's fine. They're probably going to make the playoff this year, quite frankly. Like that, I think they probably will make it because we all think 10-2 is going to make it. They can still lose another game and get in. But they're not going to be the dominant force they once were for a number of reasons. One, Saban's not there to keep the machine running. And two, because there's just too much parity. You're going to have, Bama just had a former 5-star recruit, a top 50 player in the nation, who is an upperclassman, on October the 7th, after starting for 2 years, he up and said, I'm out of here. I'm not going to play anymore. I'm taking my red shirt. I'm transferring. So you can't build the type of depth that you once did at Alabama, where they could just cycle them through year after year after year, and you were sending 11, 12 guys to the NFL every year, but it didn't matter because you still had the next ones ready to go. Those guys are going to leave, and they had one leave today. So it's not like a massive indictment on Alabama that they're not going to win 6 national championships in 15 years. It's just the reality of the situation. And this is kind of what it boils down to. And it's a shocking result, but they're just not going to be the juggernaut they once were. And we'll see just where that boat finds its level. I think it's still going to be pretty damn good, but it's not going to be what it once was. And that was unbelievable to sit there and watch. You could not, when Clark Lee woke up on Saturday, I'm sure he had a plan to run the ball and slow the game down and limit Alabama's possessions. He could not have envisioned it any better than what he got in this game. To go up big early and then to keep your foot down. And yes, Bama was scoring points, and yes, you did fall behind, but then to be able to finish the game, I don't think he could have realistically expected his guys could do that. And the result was the greatest game in the history of their school. And quite honestly, he now has saved his job. It was pretty evident. It would be pretty easy to reason that he had lost his job when they lost to Georgia State. This is the typical deal. They went 0-8 the last 2 years, hadn't won a league game in forever and a day. Won this year, and that'll be it. And they may move on, even though he's been kind of mired in this stadium renovation ever since he's been there, not being able to truly showcase to recruits what Vanderbilt's going to be. But this win is now he becomes untouchable, basically. It's just the reality of it. They've already got 3 wins. They'll probably get another one, maybe even 2 more. And all of a sudden, you've got a coach that's going to be around a little bit longer. And I don't think anybody would have expected that 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's remarkable, man. We all, I think everyone thought that Clark Lee was a pretty good coach and that he could win at Vanderbilt. Relatively speaking, just for
you're never guaranteed to do anything at Vanderbilt. Even if you are a great coach.
No, you're right. But I think just knowing that he was a good coach, maybe he could come in and do what James Franklin did and win some games. But I think they've still got a few more wins. And we're as LSU fans. Obviously, it's going to be great to just sit here and laugh at Alabama. And
they get their swing in Tiger
Yeah,
Stadium.
exactly. So I'm not sitting here saying, it's going to be a dogfight, but maybe it could be.
Pavia makes him interesting.
He does.
He's a good player, and we'll see if he can get through a whole year running around like this.
At the end of the season,
he's gotten this far for sure. Look, Vanderbilt can definitely win at Kentucky. They can beat Ball State. They can't beat Texas. They can definitely win at Auburn. They can definitely beat South Carolina. I don't like their chances in Tiger Stadium, and I don't think they're going to beat Tennessee either. But there are 4 more very winnable games on that schedule for Vanderbilt, and that would be Herculean if they could get 2 or 3 more. So
it would be.
All right, there was a lot more to react to in the Southeastern Conference, so let's do that when we come back on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports, EvolvePT.com is that website. If you're an active person and you're not able to do the things that you want to do because there's pain that's compromising you, Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports is where you need to be. It's fantastic, fantastic place right here in Baton Rouge. You walk in and you're, from the moment you walk in until the moment you leave, taken care of with a very, very hands-on approach to rehabilitation. It's not one of those deals where they say, hey, let's do some stretching here. You can go do it at home. We'll see how things are feeling in a week. Nope. You're going to be in there with that physical therapist, and they're going to be making sure that you're making progress to get back to being your active self. Whether you're a youth athlete, high school athlete, college athlete, or just somebody in their 50s that's trying to get back out to working out 3 times a week. If that's the case and you can't because pain is compromising you, Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports is where you need to be. Robbie Bolden has been at this for better than 2 decades, happy to help you. His team's fantastic. They're right there on Starring near Highland Road. Starring near Highland Road. You can check them out online. EvolvePT.com. EvolvePT.com.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial properties. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Moving right along here, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Ross Jackson coming up in 15 minutes. Saints and Chiefs from Arrowhead tonight on Monday Night Football. We'll be out at LaBerge watching that one. Matt's going to do AFR from ESPN Bet inside LaBerge from 3 to 6, and then we'll be out there watching the game. So very much looking forward to getting out there. Great game watching spot there at LaBerge. And we'll be there from 3 o'clock when Matt starts the show all the way through the end of the ball game tonight. So very much looking forward to that. Going back to Saturday's action, there was so much stunning stuff on Saturday. I think the most relevant topic here in Baton Rouge is probably Ole Miss beating South Carolina 27-3. LSU clearly beat South Carolina a couple of weeks ago, and Ole Miss is next up on the schedule. And you were kind of curious how Ole Miss was going to respond to the loss to Kentucky. And to me, as I watched the highlights of this game, I was playing golf while it was going on, but I did have a chance to watch the game and the highlights when I got home. And the thing that really stood out to me in this game was how bad Lenora Sellers looked. I mean, he just looked terrible. 20 of 32 for 161 yards. He throws a terrible interception in the end zone. He was inaccurate. He was indecisive. Ole Miss kind of got after him a little bit. He had one good 30-yard run. Outside of that, he couldn't do anything with his legs either. And They only gave the ball to Rocket Sanders 8 times in the game. There was just no rhythm to South Carolina's offense whatsoever. And Ole Miss deserves a modicum of credit for that, for creating that. But there's also just severe limitations to South Carolina's offense. And unfortunately, LSU wasn't able to limit 60-yard touchdown runs. So South Carolina had a successful day offensively when LSU went to Columbia. But if you shut that off and you make them try to execute down the field, they're not very good at that, and Ole Miss did make them do that, and it was really, really ugly to sit there and try to watch. We're going to have to monitor all week the injury result from this game for Ole Miss because Trey Harris went out of this game in the first half. He's their best pass catcher. He didn't play in the second half of the game. I practiced this earlier. Princely Umanmielen went out of this game as well. Also saw Walter Nolan go down with an injury. So there were some bumps and bruises for Ole Miss, and we'll have to monitor that as we get deeper into this week. But they looked really good on defense. They were good enough on offense, scoring 27 points on the road. I thought South Carolina may really give them some trouble with their pass rush. That did not happen. Jackson Dart wasn't super good. He was 14 of 27, which is a tick over 50%, but he didn't turn it over. He threw for 285 yards, and I thought Ole Miss did a pretty good job on the ground as well. Henry Parrish kind of carried most of the load for him. He had 81 yards on 21 carries. And the other piece to the running game here is J.J. Pegues, their huge defensive lineman. They snap him the ball, and he runs touchdowns in now. He had 2 touchdowns on 1 yard rushing, 1.5 yard rushing. We'll give him 2. But he had two touchdown carries from 2 yards out total. So that was a dominant performance from Ole Miss. I think that'll get LSU's attention, and Ole Miss probably feeling a little bit better about itself today than they did this time last week. I'll tell you who should not be feeling good about themselves, and that's Missouri. Missouri, I believe, was exposed as a total and complete fraud on Saturday. A&M manhandled them from start to finish. It was 24-0 at halftime in this game. It was 30-0 at one point in this game. Missouri could not do anything on either side of the ball. Brady Cook looked awful. He was 13 of 31 in the game for 186 yards. The Missouri ground game, which has kind of been the backbone of their offense, which is stupid because their best players are wide receivers. But Missouri could not run the ball at all. Ran it for 2.3 yards per carry in the game, and A&M just controlled it from start to finish. They ran it well. They threw it great. I mean, you look at the total yards in this game, and it was an absolute mismatch on both sides, 512 to 254. A&M doubled up Missouri in yardage in this game. I think A&M's got a solid team. I think they're pretty good. Connor Wigman had one of his good days on Saturday, and I think that there should be optimism in College Station about what Texas A&M can be this year. That's fine, and we'll talk about that at a certain point. But on the flip side of this, Missouri, complete fraud. Absolutely, totally fraudulent. It's a team that was in a dogfight with Boston College. It was in a dogfight with Vanderbilt. They got annihilated by A&M. They're going to lose 4 or 5 games. Like, they are just not any good. And that's one of the things that I was talking about in August. Like, there are some programs that get the benefit of the doubt with what your product is going to be year over year. And Missouri's just not one of those. I'm not willing to just concede that because Missouri won 10 games in the regular season last year and looked good in a bowl game that Ohio State didn't care about, that they're going to be really good again this year. Yeah, they've got the headline players that you knew, but they lost a ton of guys off the defense. They lost Blake Baker, and they were exposed on Saturday in College Station. So that, to me, was the big storyline there. Got to talk Tennessee and Arkansas as well. Look, that's a pretty shocking offensive output from Tennessee, quite frankly, because we think of Josh Heupel as being this offensive mastermind that's got this well-oiled machine, and they just couldn't really do a ton against Arkansas as far as putting points on the board. Nico throws for 158 yards. They did hit some long runs with Dylan Sampson, the running back, and he ended up with 6.3 yards per carry in the game. But I think of Tennessee as a team that should go to Fayetteville and score 40 points. They scored 14 points. And we could get into like different plays in this game, different breaks that Arkansas may have gotten. To me, the most noteworthy thing in this game, and I don't mean to pick on a young student athlete too badly, but we have to talk about this. Tennessee has the football. They are trailing by 5 points. There are 6 seconds to go in the game. And it's 4th down. You're on the 25-yard line-ish, give or take a couple of yards, down 5 with 6 seconds left. And Nico Iamaleava takes the snap, runs around, and just runs out of bounds. Like, throw it in the end zone. You're down by 5, and it's the last play of the game. And I hear, well, it's his first year as a starter. He's only a second-year player. You should know that in 10-year-old Pee Wee football. Like, if there's one play left and you're down by 5, the ball needs to go in the end zone. And Nico ran out of bounds. I get frustrated when guys get tackled on the last play of the game and they're not in the end zone. But that oftentimes is going to result in a fumble, or it's not generally going to work out. But at least try. This is inexcusable to me. To be in a 5-point game and to not have the ball travel into the end zone is just wild to me. So Tennessee suffers that pretty shocking loss to Arkansas, and now you're thinking about whether or not the Vols are a legitimate playoff team. They've got Alabama and Georgia still to come on their schedule, but those are far and away the most difficult games that they have. They're going to have to get one of those and not drop another one. They got Florida at home. They got Kentucky at home. They got Mississippi State at home. They got UTEP, which doesn't matter. Then they'll go to Nashville to play Vanderbilt. So everything else is very manageable. But Tennessee, honestly, all they had to do was hold serve after the Oklahoma game. And they come off a bye, and they just had nothing. Their defense is still good. I mean, you gave up 19 points. This is a defensive team that Josh Heupel has fielded in what we would consider a program that leans heavily toward the offense. And it's just like one of those things, like you were at Tennessee, you were begging for a defense a couple of years ago because your offense was so good, and you let South Carolina score a bajillion on you, and Georgia too. And now you got the defense, and the offense doesn't show up when you absolutely had to have it. It kind of feels like LSU, which has always had such great defenses, and then the offense explodes last year, and there's just nobody home on the defensive side of things. Vanderbilt, Tennessee's kind of living in that world here, as they don't score enough. They didn't score a ton at Oklahoma, and they didn't score really at all in Fayetteville. Just a shocking loss there at Tennessee. And Beck, do we think Coach Pittman is going to save his job now?
I think he is. I mean, they're
4-2.
Yeah, that's a really obviously a really massive win for them. Because I mean, you look at the rest of the schedule. They've got LSU obviously next week in Fayetteville, and then they've got Ole Miss at home, Texas at home, and then at Missouri, who doesn't look as intimidating as before.
No.
So man, they've still got a few wins I think on the schedule, and if they can get to maybe a game under 500 or at 500, just overall, I think they'll be fine.
I don't have much to add on Georgia-Auburn, just kind of methodical beatdown that Georgia put on them 31-13. But Auburn did cover, which I had for reasons that I don't want to get into. But that's a winner there. There was a real world, speaking of saving jobs, where Billy Napier was out of a job on Sunday. Like, that was staring you right down the barrel. If you go into a game in the swamp with Central Florida and you can't come out with a win, you're toast. But Florida did. They played really good defense, which they haven't done all year. Only give up 13 points to Central Florida. Ended up scoring 24, so they win the game by 11. They played Mertz more than Lagway in the game, but they did have some success kind of using both of them in the game. You had Mertz go 19 of 23 in the game, and Lagway came in and completed all 4 of his throws. No turnovers, which is a huge deal for those guys there. And they put UCF, which has been a great running football team, one of the top 5 in the country in terms of running the ball, in a blender. Like 40 carries for 108 yards is a great job by Florida's defense of stepping up. KJ Jefferson, we know, is not going to win the games through the air when the ground game's not there, and he was terrible. 12 of 22 for 165 yards, no touchdowns and an interception. That's a QBR of 16.8 for KJ Jefferson. That's a game that if you're a Florida fan, you have trouble like actually celebrating because you know that you're supposed to do it, but there's a world where they were going to lose that game to Central Florida, not be able to stop the run, and maybe be in the head coaching market. Now Billy Napier lives to fight, but we haven't gotten to that part of the schedule where everyone thought that it was all going to fall apart for Florida. And we're not quite there yet. You're at Tennessee, which is going to be a very difficult game to win. And then you've got Kentucky in the swamp. That's another one where if you lose these next 2, we can start talking about real problems for Billy Napier. But then after that, you all know what the schedule looks like. Georgia in the cocktail party, at Texas, LSU comes to the Swamp, Ole Miss comes to the Swamp, and then at Florida State. Now, the good news is Florida State looks awful.
Yes.
So you right now have 3 wins. If I give you a win over Florida State, that would be 4. If I give you a win over Kentucky, that would be 5. And then I think you've got to win 1 of Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, and LSU and Ole Miss. You got to win 1.
At least, I think. But here's the, in my opinion, I think even if they get one of those, if they lose to Florida State, I don't see a way he survives.
Well, he's got to get Florida State. Florida State and Kentucky were the 2 that he had to get, and then you got to win 1 of the rest of them.
Yep.
So if he gets those 2, that gets him to 5 wins, and then your 6th one comes. If you go 6-6, I think they may tap the brakes.
Maybe.
But Central Florida would have been the last straw. Like, you can't lose that one, and they found a way to get it done. So we'll still talk a little bit more about what went on in the world of college football over the weekend. Denton Day is going to be with us in an hour. We got to get you ready for Saints and Chiefs as well. Ross Jackson is in Kansas City. He will join us next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Give yourself the peace of mind of knowing that the power is not going to go out at your home or your business. Looks like we got another monster of a hurricane there in the Gulf. Milton is headed right towards Tampa, reached Cat 5 status earlier today. And we know that in this part of the world, like, that's an inevitability. Like, those storms are going to come. So if you don't think ahead, you could be stuck in the hot and the dark. But if you do right now and make that phone call to the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical Services, you can get that Generac home standby generator put in, and you don't have to worry about the power going out. They monitor your generator remotely 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so they know if there is a malfunction. They know if there is a reason they need to go out there and do some maintenance so they can have it fixed, up and running when it's time to spring into action. Every single Generac home standby generator they sell you at Boudreaux's Electrical comes with a 10-year warranty. Give them a call, 985-397-1562. That's 985-397-1562. Or 225-300-9389. 225-300-9389. That is Boudreaux's Electrical Services.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has back-to-school savings like $16,000 off 25 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $16,000 off. All new Bayou vehicles come with a complimentary extended warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Rolling along here, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Gulf Coast Office Products. Monday Night Football tonight from Arrowhead up in Kansas City. It'll be the Saints and the defending world champion Kansas City Chiefs. Ross Jackson covers the Saints for LouisianaSports.net, as well as Locked On Saints. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Ross, how we doing?
Hey, man, doing great. Glad to be here with you.
Glad you are here with us. All right, let's talk injuries. They were the dominant story late in the week last week with the New Orleans Saints, specifically on the offensive line. Where do we stand right now at center? Because Chris Jones is not a lot of fun to deal with.
Yeah, he's definitely not the player that you want to be going up against with a hurt interior offensive line. But there's a good chance here that this evening that the Saints will be starting their third straight new starting center in as many games. They started that Philadelphia Eagles game with Eric McCoy under center. They only had him for 3 snaps. Then Shane Lemieux last week, and then now it seems likely that Connor McGovern will end up taking over at center here throughout this game against Kansas City Chiefs. So it's going to be a third time in 3 weeks they'll have a new center there. There's a chance that Lucas Patrick could potentially be in that conversation as well, but he's questionable going into this game after suffering an injury during the practice week. So it seems likely that the Saints will not only have a new face to their team this week, but also a new starter. He'll also be their new starter at center.
Is the concern more so with Jones in the pass rush or in his ability to disrupt New Orleans' running game?
I would say when it comes to Chris Jones, you're probably more concerned about what he contributes in the pass rush. He moves around the defensive line. He kind of gets to just pick where it is that he takes snaps, which is what happens when you're one of the best defensive players in the NFL. And so because he moves around quite a bit, he could be a little bit hard to keep an eye on and contain. But him taking snaps on the interior up against a new starting center, a second week starting right guard, and a potentially new starting left guard as well. Remember, if Lucas Patrick can't go, then that would still mean somebody else would at least have to step in at left guard, and that might be Nick Saldiveri. That is kind of what I'm expecting, but it could, Saints could go another direction. He's going to get a lot of opportunity to present some disruption and what is the closest pathway point to Derek Carr, which is on that interior. So I would expect that that's where he ends up having a pretty big impact for this team, for the Kansas City Chiefs at least, and that's the big thing that the New Orleans Saints need to be concerned about.
So look, obviously with that many new faces on the offensive line trying to work together for the first time, I mean, what is the plan here for Clint Kubiak and the offense to try to help those guys a little bit?
Yeah, the good news about McGovern, if he is indeed the starting center as we expect in this game, is that he's very familiar with the Kubiak run scheme and the philosophies of the Kubiak run system. He's familiar with Gary Kubiak. He also has worked with Rick Dennison, who is the New Orleans Saints run game coordinator. He's also worked with John Benton, the New Orleans Saints offensive line coach, back during his days with the New York Jets. And so the good news is that there's familiarity in terms of the run game. So I think part of what you're trying to do here is see if you can get your run game going against this Kansas City Chiefs defense, which has been very good against the run and has been particularly very good against the zone run concepts across the league. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge, but I think that that's going to be your plan if you're Clint Kubiak, is try to alleviate as much pressure on Derek Carr as possible by getting that run game going. Not something super unique to what it is they typically do, but particularly with a struggling, or not struggling, but an interior offensive line in flux, if you will. You're going to want to make sure you're backing that defensive front off by making them respect your run game, and then see if you're able to take advantage of that in the passing game.
I've been heaping praise all over Alvin Kamara because I don't know that I would agree with the Saints putting a bunch of money into a new contract for him, but he's going out there and giving it everything he's got, even though he's not super thrilled with that contract situation. How do we know about, or what do we know about how well Alvin Kamara is feeling physically right now?
Yeah, he did move back up to being full this week. Remember, he played with those broken ribs last week. I had also read about a hip pointer for him, too, so a couple different things heard about, rather. A hip pointer there for him too, and so I think that that was such a, to your point, such a huge showing, right? A guy that's looking for a new contract and guarantees in his future and everything like that, didn't get it, and still goes out there and plays through injury the way that he did, literally putting his body on the line at what is a very physical position to play, which is part of the reason why teams typically don't give running backs contracts, because of that very reason. And so there he goes, still going out there and getting it done. So I think he does deserve that praise. But I think from a health perspective, I wouldn't say he's back to week one health, but it sounds like he's at least better health-wise than he was last week, getting up to full participation for the first time in some time. So that's good news, trending in the right direction there.
Ross Jackson's our guest, covers the Saints for us for LouisianaSports.net, also Locked On Saints podcast. If you're looking for your Saints information, no better source here than our guy, Ross Jackson. Let's flip it around and talk about this Chiefs offense that's kind of been okay through an undefeated month. They've obviously got a pretty good quarterback, but what have you seen from this Chiefs offense through a month?
Yeah, this is a Chiefs offense that's winning because of the help of its defense right now, if we're being honest, right? I mean, it's not to say, I should preface this by saying this is still the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Like, no matter what, you're going up against Patrick Mahomes, you're going up against Andy Reid, you're going up against Travis Kelce. It's still going to be a good offense. But, their explosive plays are down so far this year. They're third lowest in the NFL with only 16. That's defined by passes of more than 20 yards and rushes of more than 10 yards. You have an offense right now that's picking up, for Patrick Mahomes, 64.8% of his passing yards have come after the catch. So it's been very dink and dunk. And then it's been the yak yards that have kind of helped out the offense. So for New Orleans, the big thing is going to be, can they tackle at the catch point? Can they limit yards after catch and thereby hamper and limit a little bit of what you get from that Kansas City Chiefs offense? They're gonna get theirs here and there, but can you minimize the impact by not letting gains turn into big gains or explosive plays? That's going to be the big measure for the New Orleans Saints defense, even though they're going up against an offense that doesn't look very Kansas City Chiefsian at this time.
Yeah, we talk about the Saints' defensive backs probably being the strength of this entire roster, and the Chiefs are real low on pass catchers at this point. So is that New Orleans' biggest advantage in this game?
Yeah, I would say that it's definitely one of them. The Saints having a very strong secondary with Tyrann Mathieu being back to full over the course of this week, going into the game with no injury designation. They have their starting corners. Alontae Taylor has been awesome here to open up the season. I would say he's been one of the Saints' three best players so far this season. And so I think that that's where the Saints have their best kind of matchup. The other thing that goes along with that is that the Kansas City Chiefs are turning the ball over at a high rate. The New Orleans Saints are taking the ball away at a high rate. And so I think that's another thing. And that secondary has been a big part of that takeaway, that sort of influx of takeaways here to open up the season.
How would you describe the energy around this team right now? We know it was unbelievable after 2 weeks, and obviously they've taken it on the chin the last 2 weeks. I mean, how would you describe the vibe that's around the team right now?
Yeah, it's definitely not as sort of, big and boisterous as it was over the course of the first 2 weeks, but I don't think that this is a team that's necessarily down on itself either with the New Orleans Saints. Being in the locker room all throughout the week last week, this is a team that feels very driven, very pointed. They're not pointing fingers at one another. They're pointing fingers back at themselves for the most part whenever you speak to them and everything. And that's a good culture to have in this situation. I don't know how much longer that culture lasts if you get back to sort of this roller coaster of winning a couple of games, losing a couple of games, winning a couple of games, losing a couple of games. Like, that would put that to the test. And so nothing is going to make the culture better than winning games, but it sounds like that's the ideal, or not the ideal, but that's kind of the push for this New Orleans Saints team so far, is to maintain their continuity, maintain their chemistry, and start to continue to push forward despite the adversity, despite the attrition, and start trying to win games again so they can get back to kind of how fun they were to open up the season.
Did the Falcons win over Tampa back on Thursday kind of change the way you look at the division?
Yeah, it really did. I'm so glad you asked about that, because really, I mean, look, no one's, or at least not many people, are going to pick the Saints up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah. Lord knows I'm not. It's still the Kansas City Chiefs. And so what that win for Atlanta did was that it knocked Tampa Bay Buccaneers down to a 3-2 record. That means that even if the Saints come out of this week 2-3, they host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers next week, who, to be honest, are going to kind of have it rough next week, right? They're going to New Orleans early on Tuesday to avoid the impact of Hurricane Milton, which just went up to a Category 5. They typically wouldn't travel until Saturday, so there's going to be a lot of turmoil for that team. And you feel bad for them, but you also have to compete against them if you're the New Orleans Saints. And so the Saints could even up a 3-3 record with Tampa Bay and a head-to-head win, that could give them second place in the division, even with a loss this week. So that's where I think, or that's why I think that Atlanta win really shook things up for the NFC South and really actually helped the New Orleans Saints in terms of their outlook coming out of this week, win or lose.
Enjoy Airhead tonight, Ross. Appreciate the time, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Take care, stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon.
Sure will. He's Ross Jackson. Locked On Saints podcast, as well as LouisianaSports.net. Ross there in Kansas City. He'll be writing some stories for us this evening, and it's a great opportunity for the Saints. It's also a really difficult task. We'll see if they're up to it with a completely revamped offensive line in the ball game tonight. As we mentioned at the top of the show, we'll be out at LeBear's and ESPN Bet. Looking forward to that. Thanks to the folks over at Mockler for making that happen. If you're looking for somewhere to watch the game, maybe watch the first half, come see us out at ESPN Bet in LeBear's. Should be a heck of a good time. They got a great game watching setup and blackjack tables right there, so you can play some blackjack and watch the game. Always a lot of fun over there at ESPN Bet. All right, let's step aside, come back, close out hour number 1 next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com is that website. I told you about this a couple times last week, but I wanted to reiterate. Mitchell Fisher and his team did a really cool project a couple of weeks ago where they helped connect Wi-Fi from the main house that somebody had at a lake down to the pier. If you've got a property that's got something like that, like a waterfront situation, and you always have trouble trying to get the Wi-Fi to cooperate, whether you're trying to stream music or handle a television somewhere, or if you're just trying to connect some of the devices back up at the main house, they can do it at Audio Video Security Solutions. They just did it, and if you want to check out how they made it happen, you can go to their Instagram, AVSS_BR, and you can see some of the videos and pictures of that project that they were able to handle a couple of weeks ago. Really, really cool stuff. They have got capabilities over at Audio Video Security Solutions that I don't even understand or know exist. And that's why when I sat down with Mitchell the first time and he was able to kind of explain some of the things that they could do and the convenience it would bring us at our house, I was like, yeah, I'm in. And we've been so happy with our partnership with Audio Video Security Solutions. The install was fantastic right when we moved in, and customer service has been excellent as well. Check them out online, avssla.com. It's Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com.
The best-kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
When you can't rely on technology, you can rely on Mountain Cold Refreshment.
Dave's back on.
Coors Light. Choose chill.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Shout out to the folks at Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, they got you covered at Gulf Coast Office Products. Chatted with Trey Buell back last week. He was telling me about the longevity of a lot of his employees. He's got 5 or 6 people right around him that have been with Gulf Coast Office Products for better than 20 years. It's just because they've got an incredible work environment over there, incredible customer service they provide with you. It's just an awesome team of folks at Gulf Coast Office Products, and we appreciate them for bringing you our Monday shows each and every week. If you've got printing, scanning, copying needs, give them a call or check them out online at Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com. Are we going to call the Bengals dead back, or is that what we're going to do here?
Unfortunately, I think we have to.
I mean, that would have been such a monster win yesterday over Baltimore. I mean, I don't think Pittsburgh's that good. Their record's okay, but I don't think they're very good. The Browns are a complete disaster. So you're kind of looking at just Baltimore and the Bengals. And you've got a chance to win the game. Jamar's gone off. You've got a lead. You got a 10-point lead late, unable to hold it. Then, at the end of regulation, you've got a chance to go down there and win the game. And Zach Taylor decides to settle for a 53-yard field goal instead of trusting Joe Burrow to go down the freaking field and get some more yards and create an easier opportunity. Like, taking a 53-yard field goal for granted is just nonsense. Everyone on the internet was talking about it while they were doing it, just running it ahead, running it into a brick wall at the 40-yard line. It was just disgusting the way they managed the end of that game.
Yeah, it was. I will say I understand somewhat why. I mean, Evan McPherson's a pretty good kicker. I would trust him to make the 53-yard field goal. I would say the percentages are probably pretty good. But
Joe Burrow was 30 of 39.
No.
I realize he threw a bad pick in the fourth quarter. I got it, and that's fresh in your mind. But he's also one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league. If you don't trust him to go down there and not turn it over and then help you get some more yardage, then you're not coaching properly.
No, I agree with you, but I do also see why they decide to kick the field goal.
I mean, the coach's job is to put the players in position. That's all you can do.
Right.
Like, they can't go out there and actually play, obviously. You're putting yourself in a position to fail if you run the ball 3 times for nothing and then kick a 53-yard field goal. That is positioning your players to fail because it's a low return possibility. Like, and Burrow had 5 touchdowns in the game, 392 yards on this Baltimore defense that has given up more 20-plus yard passing plays than any defense in football. And you just go into a shell. Just gross. And it's inept. And, like, you sit there at 1-4 now. Baltimore's 3-2. They've come to your place and won. Like your chances of overcoming the Baltimore Ravens sans a Lamar Jackson injury, which of course nobody wants to see, are tiny.
They are.
Like we've seen the Bengals go rattle off 7 wins in a row a lot because they get off to these terrible starts, but this feels like it's worse.
Yeah, you've got to hope at this point. I don't think that I think and the Steelers are 3-2, so at this point
I think they're bad.
Yes, but at this point I don't think there's much of a chance you have in the divisions, and now you just got to hope that you can maybe get to a couple of games over 500.
3 of the next 4 for Cincinnati are against bad teams. They're at the Giants, who stink. Then they're at the Browns, who stink.
Yeah.
Now, they're road games, but those teams stink. Then you got Philly coming to Cincinnati, and then you play the Raiders at home, and they stink.
Yeah. But like I said, you have to just hope that the wild card is competitive, and if you can get to a couple of games over 500, you can maybe be in it. That's your only hope now.
Step aside for Sports Center. Come back with us in hour number 2. That's a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
At Atmos Energy, our smart choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has back-to-school savings like $16,000 off 25 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $16,000 off. All new Bayou vehicles come with a complimentary extended warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Center.
I'm Christine Lisi. Patriot safety Jabril Peppers, a team captain, pleaded guilty today. 2 days was in court today, 2 days after he was arraigned on charges that included assault and battery, strangulation, and drug possession following a disturbance at a home early Saturday morning. As the 1-4 Bengals get ready to take on the Giants in Week 6, a brutally honest claim take on where the team stands from franchise quarterback Joe Burrow. He said they are not a championship-level squad. Unsportsmanlike co-host Chris Canty.
They're a 1-4 team. Bill Parcells said it a long time ago. You are what your record says you are. And the record says the Cincinnati Bengals stink. Joe Burrow said, yeah, we're not playing championship football. Yeah, newsflash, we all know that. Maybe you're the last ones to figure it out. You're not a good football team.
Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers expected to return from an oblique injury, start against Oklahoma Saturday. They will continue to monitor his recovery throughout the week. Alabama junior defensive tackle Jaheim Otis will redshirt this season and enter the transfer portal. He said the reason for leaving is playing time. He's averaged 16 snaps a game in the 4 games he's played this season.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Canty. Coming up Tuesday, Brock Purdy hasn't looked super without his friends. I'll tell you what he needs to do to silence the critics if he wants to get paid this offseason. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Gulf Coast Office Products. My pick for Saints at Chiefs coming up in the next segment. Denton Day talking college football from a national perspective at 2:30. Also, the Washington Commanders continue to roll. That's Denton's squad. We'll talk about Jaden Daniels' start as they are among the best teams in the NFC, it feels like at this point. So we'll talk to Denton coming up 30 minutes from right now. Brian Kelly back at it with the normal media sessions this week. Did have his Monday press availability. We'll have his Thursday as well as we get ready for LSU and Ole Miss from inside Tiger Stadium coming up on Saturday night. And Brian Kelly said that LSU's got a great opportunity coming up on Saturday.
A great challenge for us. We're excited about it. We know where we're at in terms of the next 7 weeks. We have SEC opponents. Our team is, excited about the challenge of playing at home in Tiger Stadium and looking forward to a Saturday night in Tiger Stadium on national television. That's why you come to LSU, and we're excited about the matchup. A great challenge for us.
Look, I'm a little torn with how I should approach this game. I want to approach it in a manner that suggests that this is a game with massive playoff implications. You feel like for Ole Miss it does. They've got one loss, but if they can beat LSU and get one more against a really good team, whether that's Georgia or Oklahoma, then they've got a great chance at 10-2 to get in. And I want to suggest that from the other side as well with LSU. And I feel like that's a possibility. I think LSU can beat Ole Miss. I think LSU can beat Arkansas. I think LSU can beat Texas A&M. I think LSU can beat Oklahoma. I think LSU can beat Alabama. I've talked about this a lot, but do we feel like this team and this defense are ready to rise to that occasion and win 6 of their last 7 games? The defense that played Nichols won't do it. The defense that played South Carolina won't do it. Maybe the defense that played against UCLA and South Alabama can do it, but we won't find out until the game on Saturday. There's a chance that LSU's defense gets annihilated on Saturday and they go on the road at Arkansas and they lose that game and they also lose at Texas A&M and Alabama beats them, and all of a sudden you're looking at a disaster season like that. That opportunity presents itself as well. I could talk myself into LSU being a 5-loss team. I could talk myself into LSU being a 10-2 team that makes the playoff. I can get either one. The fact is, we just won't know until it happens. And that's kind of the way that I have to approach this game, is with indecision. I would like to suggest that this is just a huge opportunity for LSU to move toward the playoff. But there may be more of LSU's recent history in terms of the last 20 years making that statement as opposed to the team that's played and was given a real scare by a South Carolina team that might not be very good, was beaten by a Southern Cal team that has not looked good since then, was sleepwalking through the Nichols game. I could frame it either way. But truth be told, I'm probably on the fence. What I do know is that Saturday is going to be an awesome day. Leading up to kickoff, it's going to be fantastic. And Brian Kelly talked about the atmosphere going into this game.
I think what I'm excited and our players are excited about is an SEC game, right, in Tiger Stadium. I think the energy, the excitement, not that it wasn't exciting for the other games, but this is different, right? I think it all just kind of rises to a new level when it's an SEC opponent in Tiger Stadium. It just, it mixes differently, and we're excited about that.
I wrote a column for LouisianaSports.net this morning basically on that exact thing. I've been around here long enough now, and most of you have as well. If you're listening to this show, then you're probably right there in the camp with me. But I've been around long enough to know that not every game inside that stadium is the same. And when you listen to Scott Van Pelt and Ryan Russillo tell you that Tiger Stadium is the greatest place they've ever been to a sporting event, and you see the rankings in this magazine or that publication that says that Tiger Stadium at night is the toughest environment in sports, and Barstool says that or whatever, they are talking about when Alabama comes in here for a November night game. They are talking about that type of environment. They're not talking about when North Texas comes in September. Because we've all been in there for those games. I mean, I was there for the UCLA game 2 weeks ago, and it felt like the spring game. There was nothing about that was the most intimidating environment in all of sports. Now, it was 1,000 degrees, and I don't blame anybody that wasn't there. But it's just a reality. It's only great every once in a while. And last year with Jaden chasing the Heisman, the crowd was pretty good against Florida. The crowd was pretty good against Texas A&M because there was a Heisman on the line. But the best in that stadium comes out when there are team aspirations on the line. And at this point, there still are. Whether or not you think LSU is going to get to those is a different discussion. They're still available now because you've only got one loss. And so I expect, because you've got a really good opponent coming in at Ole Miss, LSU is in the top 10 in the coaches poll. Say what you will about their team. Your weather's going to be fine. I think the high is like 88 in tonight's game. And like I just said, the game's at night. You've got all the ingredients you need for that stadium to be awesome on Saturday. And before they kick it off, it will be awesome. Tailgating will be awesome. Pre-game will be awesome. And then you let it fly. And if LSU can stay in this game with Ole Miss, get a lead in this game with Ole Miss, the stadium will be absolutely on fire. And that is what I'm looking forward to, because I would suggest that it hasn't been an awesome environment inside Tiger Stadium like the one that I think you're going to see on Saturday since LSU beat Alabama 2 years ago. I don't think last year Auburn qualified for that. I don't think last year Texas A&M or Florida quite qualified for that. I think this will be incredible because LSU fans know how big a game this is for Ole Miss. If Ole Miss loses this game, just like they did against South Carolina, if they had lost that game, the most anticipated season in Ole Miss football in the last 25 years would be almost over. Like, that's what they're playing for. And LSU can deal that blow. And I think everybody in purple and gold would be well on board with that. It's going to be an incredible environment there, and I agree with Brian Kelly on that 100%. But now you get to the actual playing on the field, and you had an opportunity during this bye week to evaluate some things in practice. And Brian Kelly talked about wanting to evaluate the safeties, wanted to talk about evaluating some of the younger players without a game plan looming last week, and he spoke to evaluating that personnel during the open day.
The first thing you do is an exhaustive self-scout, right? What are your tendencies? What tendencies do you need to break? And are there things there that you're doing really well that you want to build on, or not so well that you need to certainly work on in the bye week? Then it's the evaluation of, the body of work through those first 5 weeks. Who are the guys that have built that trust that you can put on the field? So as you go into these 7 weeks of SEC opponents, those are the guys that you want on the field. So I think we've done both from a technical and tactical standpoint, the work necessary, and then from a personnel standpoint, who are the guys that we want to put on the field? That's been really a lot of the work this past week. The first thing you
And we won't learn that until Saturday when they actually get on the field. I'll be certainly looking at what safeties are out there, certainly looking at what corners they want to play. You'll see what's available at wide receiver. But we won't have those answers until they actually get on the field on Saturday. What we do know is that LSU has played a little bit better defense the last couple of weeks than they did early, and they've certainly been better than they were last year. And this was the game last year where the defense just completely ripped at the seams. And you could not get a stop under any circumstance against this Ole Miss team. They scored just about every time they had the football. They put 55 on you, and your Heisman Trophy winner went up and down the field, scored nearly 50 points, and you couldn't win the game. And that was, I think, your first real... I mean, they weren't great against Florida State on defense, but it didn't look like a complete disaster. They had an interception. They got a couple of stops. They couldn't do anything in this game against Ole Miss last year. And Brian Kelly talked about remembering that and where he thinks this team has come in that year that has passed since Ole Miss went up and down the field for 55 points.
We were tilted one side, and we had to play, unfortunately, the game that way. I didn't like it, but that's what we had. And so we were in a situation last year where we were trying to outscore, and it's not the right way to play. It was the only way to play. I think there's much more balance in our football team, and we don't want to play that way. We want to play good defense. We want to keep the points down, and we want to score appropriately. So if you're asking the question relative to how it fits, each and every week, we don't want it to be a shootout. We want to play the appropriate level of defense that allows us to run our offense, that protects and plays complementary football.
This is the crux of this entire week. Are you any better than you were? We can't learn that against Lenoris Sellers and Robbie Ashford. We can't learn that against South Alabama. We can't draw the necessary conclusions from those games. LSU got out of them alive, and that's fine. This is where the rubber meets the road. You're either moving forward as a program and becoming the championship-type program that Brian Kelly came here to build, which means you're able to score points on this Ole Miss defense that's got a bunch of pros on it, and you can slow down, not stop, but slow down this offense at times on your field in front of your crowd with a week to prepare. You either can do that or you can't do that. If you can and you beat Ole Miss, okay, let's talk about 10-2. Let's talk about the playoff. If Ole Miss scores 48 points and beats you by 2 scores, you got a long way to go, brother. Long way to go. This is the measuring stick game. Not Arkansas, not Oklahoma. This one. Right now, right here. If LSU can go out there and win this game 31-21, you've got a team that can make a run. If you get dusted and you can't get a stop, then you haven't fixed the issues that honestly this game cropped up last year. I don't think Ole Miss is going to win the national championship this year. I think there are better teams than Ole Miss in the country. Breaking news, I know. But I think they're a playoff caliber team on most days, and you're measuring yourself with them. I hate that as an LSU alum and as an LSU fan that I'm having to think that way about Ole Miss. That should be the standard that LSU plays at. But let's just be honest. LSU's resume last year defensively was simply not good enough. And Ole Miss has been a better football program over the last 3 years than LSU. 3 years. That doesn't prove everything. But over the last 3 years, Ole Miss is better than you. It's time to rise up and make sure that's not the case anymore. We'll see on Saturday night in Death Valley, LSU and Ole Miss. We'll talk plenty about it as we move forward this week on the show. Denton Day is going to be with us in 15 minutes talking about some college football, but I got to give you my pick for Saints and Chiefs. We'll break that game down, give you my pick coming up next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Look, we understand that Milton is not a threat to the Louisiana Gulf Coast. Looks like it's headed right for Tampa. But what that does is it creates a ton of claims, and it can mess with the insurance marketplace. And that does affect you as a South Louisiana homeowner or business owner. If you're uncomfortable with the renewal process because there may be some significant changes in the insurance market with back-to-back hurricanes hitting near the same place, that puts a real hurt on some insurance carriers. you need to have a broker in your corner that's capable of navigating these waters and getting your renewal taken care of. Highland Insurance Group can do that. This is what I tell you all the time about the Highlands Insurance Group. They are an advocate for you and your business. You think of them the same way as you would think of your attorney. You would think of your CPA. You trust those people, even though they're outside of your organization at times, to understand the inner workings of what goes on so that when things go poorly, you can figure it out. The Highland Insurance Group can help you on the insurance side. They do your property and casualty. They can also handle group and employee benefits. If you're a business owner and don't quite understand just what your policies may say inside and out, get on the phone with the Highland Insurance Group or check them out online, highlandig.com. It's Jonathan Carver and his team right here in Baton Rouge, the Highland Insurance Group, highlandig.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
All right, Saints and Chiefs tonight. Chiefs are 4-0. Saints 2-2. But the Chiefs have been playing some tight ones. Opened the season in that Thursday night game with the Baltimore Ravens. It was a 27-20 victory. We know that the Ravens caught the football and were just fractions of an inch out of bounds in the back of the end zone in what could have been a game-winning, potentially 2-point conversion if they decided to go for 2 there. But they win that game 27-20 over the Ravens. Then a real tight one with the Bengals in Arrowhead, 26-25, the final. That was in Arrowhead against the Bengals. They went to Atlanta and barely got out alive in that game against Kirk Cousins and the Falcons. 22-17 was the final in that one. And then at the Chargers last week, a 17-10 when you look at the point totals for this Chiefs team. 17 over the Chargers, 22 over the Falcons, 26 over the Bengals, 27 against the Ravens. It just has not been an explosive offense that we're used to with these Kansas City Chiefs. It's been ball control. It's been very much a dink and dunk passing game. We talked to Ross Jackson about that in the first hour. Patrick Mahomes has turned the ball over more than he usually does. You're looking at a Mahomes stat line at this point that includes 5 interceptions in 6 touchdowns in 4 games. It just hasn't been great. Now you add in the fact that Pacheco is out and that Rashee Rice is done for the year and Kelsey's been okay. But they're not as scary, in my opinion, as they have been. And I look at this Saints defense and I see a defensive line that has played well. I see a group of pass rushers that's been good, and I see a really good secondary that's been among the best in the NFL. And I love the Saints matchup on the outside in this game with Matthew Back and with Lattimore and with Alontae Taylor and Adebo. And I think that the Saints match up really, really well on the edges with this Kansas City team. How they handle Kelsey remains to be seen. How effective Kelsey will be remains to be seen. You know that obviously when Pacheco went down, Rashee Rice went down, Kelsey's output went up in their most recent game against the Chargers. He had 7 catches. He only had 8 in the first 3 games combined. So maybe they go to him a little bit more. I think the Saints are well aware that that's probably going to be a plan for Kansas City. They should have a plan for that. I don't know what the Saints linebacking core is going to look like in the game. Obviously, you're dealing with, over the last 2 weeks, injuries to Demario Davis, to Pete Werner, and to Willie Gay. There are issues there. And so we'll see what the Saints decide to do and whether or not that impacts how they handle Travis Kelce. But I still, as I break this down and I look at the Chiefs offense against the Saints defense, I see the Chiefs around 24 points in this game. I don't think they're going to score in the 30s or the 40s. The Saints defense is good, and the Chiefs offense has not been that great. So in that way, I expect the Saints to stay in the game. The problem is I cannot sit here in good conscience and feel great about the Saints offensive line. You are moving pieces all over the place on this offensive line, including one from the Jets practice squad on Friday. So you bring McGovern in, and he's going to be your center. It looks like Saldiveri on one guard. I don't know what Lucas Patrick's availability is going to be, but you're playing musical chairs there, and your tackles are question marks, even though you like basically the way that they've played through 4 games. It's a question mark. And Chris Jones can wreck the entire game. He's that good. We saw Jalen Carter do it 2 weeks ago. Chris Jones is that type of dude. And the Saints have got to have a plan for him. I know that it involves running the ball. Well, they tried that against Philly, and it didn't work. You couldn't run the ball at all, and therefore you weren't able to move it. Last week, they did get the running game going, and they were able to move it, and they were able to score points. I thought the offense played well enough to win the game last week, and you got beat at the end. You had a tough break on the pass interference call, and certainly the defense played well enough to win in the game because you gave up a pick 6, and that's not on the defense there. So I think the Saints are going to stay in this game, but I'm concerned about their ability to score. And here's the undeniable truth that has been the calling card of these two organizations for 2 years. The Chiefs win games in the margins, and the Saints don't. The Saints' record in one-score games has been abysmal. Luke Johnson, who joins us every single Thursday, wrote a story for The Advocate. It's up on his Twitter @ByLukeJohnson, talking about the Saints' late-game execution and their record in one-score games, and it's just putrid. Like, they did come out of the gate and blow out Carolina and Dallas, and that's awesome. But then you got into the games that you've got to find a way to win the last 2 weeks, and you couldn't do it. You found a way to lose. You found a way to lose last week. Give up 14 fluky points and get a pass interference call that allows a long field goal. That's finding a way to lose. And the Chiefs, as clunky as they've been, as injury-riddled as they've been, as aging as Travis Kelce is, they find a way to get it done against Baltimore, to get it done against Cincinnati. That's why they're a championship-level organization, and the Saints have not been a championship-level organization in 5 years. So to me, I look at this game, I think that the Saints are going to try to be a little bit more creative and get the ball to the edges and get it away from Chris Jones. And I think that they'll stay in it. I expect the New Orleans to be in this game in the fourth quarter, but I'll take the Kansas City Chiefs to win a 24-17 game against New Orleans tonight on Monday Night Football. It would just be such a massive win if the Saints could get it and then come home for Tampa Bay. You could really flip the way things feel, and we know that they've already flipped twice. They've flipped from kind of mediocre to wow, this team is awesome, and then they flipped back to they're the same old Saints. You can flip it back if you can play 2 more good weeks, and that's got to start tonight in one of the toughest places in the NFL to play. I'm hopeful that the Saints can get it done, but I don't know that I'm super optimistic that they will. Beck, you're looking at this game. We understand injuries are a big piece of it, and we understand that the Chiefs generally win and the Saints generally don't. But do you give them a shot tonight?
Yeah, I give them a shot, man. I mean, the NFL is just, NFL, college football, any league or conference that has a football involved in the game it's just been absurd this year. We've had so many crazy games, especially in the NFL. So the Giants beat a Seahawks team that we thought was pretty good. So anything can happen, man.
That was the worst loss on the board on Thursday.
Yeah, it
was.
Those
have hit at an alarming rate.
It really has. Yeah, it's been kind of worrisome. But yeah, I give the Saints a chance. I understand. Everyone understands the injuries, and I think this is an instance where, as we talked about last week, where the Chiefs also just have some devastating injuries too that hurt them really, really badly. So, but I don't know, man.
The Saints' path to victory,
in
my estimation,
is
going right. It has to feature 2 Mahomes turnovers.
Yeah, it does.
You've got to either Chase Young comes off the edge and he doesn't see him, and you get a strip sack, or you get a tip ball or one of the Mahomes interceptions that he's thrown for the first month of the season. If you can do that and create a couple short fields, or my goodness, get a pick 6 to make up for last week's, if you can do that, that's where. But if you play these guys straight up, I think you lose 8 out of 10 of them probably.
Yeah, most definitely. So yeah, if the defensive special teams play as well as they have all year, and well, I guess maybe not last week because the punt and everything. But that was tough. But overall though, the season, the defense and special teams have been really good. They're going to have to be really good in this game, and the offense is just going to have to do enough to maybe keep the Chiefs off the field a little bit more and limit their possessions.
We shall see. I'll tell you about where I'm watching the game coming up right now.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
LeBear's Baton Rouge. You got to make LeBear's Baton Rouge your game day headquarters this season. They've got the biggest screens around, and now you can bet and dine and wager at ESPN Bet in person. It's just an awesome place to watch the game. We'll be there. Matt Moscona is going to do after further review from ESPN Bet coming up in 30 minutes, and that'll lead us right up to pregame, and we'll be watching at ESPN Bet. So if you're in the area or want to come out and hang out and watch the game, we highly recommend that you do that. And I also tell you every day about the Cover 5 SEC contest. You got to go to the Cover 5 app, and you can pick 5 SEC games against the number, compete against me and over 100 other listeners here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. This week was a little bit better. Last week was a total embarrassment. This week was a little bit better, but not great still. So you can still compete against me and probably win. Got to use the promo code LABRSEC24 on the Cover 5 app. If you're not a member, get the Pin Play app today. LeBear's Baton Rouge, your live sports headquarters. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-589-9966 for help.
The best-kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial properties. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Congratulations to Mark Mancuso from Bell Chase. Mark is the Week 6 winner in our 2024 Pick'em contest. He wins a Hooters wing party for 10 people. Don't forget to make your picks for round 7 by this Thursday at noon. Weekly winners will receive a Hooters wing party for 10, and the first place season-long champion will receive a 75-inch 4K flat-screen TV and soundbar, plus free Hooters wings for an entire year. It's the 2024 College Football Pick'em presented by Hooters.
Talked at the end of the first hour about how disappointing Bengals' loss was on Sunday, settling for a long field goal. No such drama for the Washington Commanders and Jaden Daniels. 34-13, the final over a bad Browns team, but Washington continues to roll. They've won 4-0. Our resident Washington Commanders guy, Denton Day, also host of College Football Overtime on Sirius XM, here to talk some college football, but generally we start things with some Commanders talk, and it's been all positive, Denton.
Yeah, it certainly has been. And I went to my first game as a fan this weekend in 17 years to see Jaden Daniels up close and personal. My fiance is also a Browns fan, so she had a little less fun than I did. But it was great to see him perform the way that he did. And I mean, this is a fan base that has been apathetic, to say the least, for a long time, and he has completely injected life into him. It's been a lot of fun.
Do you consider Washington a threat in the NFC now?
Yeah, definitely. I knew he was going to be good. You knew he was going to be good. I had no idea he was going to be this good this early. And because that's already happening and there's still room for him to grow, and we've seen him make adjustments already through the first 5 weeks that have led to growth, the sky is the limit right now. Defensively, they still have some issues, but if you have a quarterback in the NFL, you have a chance, and they got a quarterback. So I think they're a legitimate threat.
They absolutely do. They're at Baltimore this coming Sunday. That'll be an unbelievable matchup of two of the most athletic quarterbacks in the league. And then after that, it's Panthers, Bears, and Giants. So could be a little run here coming for Washington if they can find a way to go on the road and beat a very good Baltimore team. We'll see. Let's talk some college football, Denton. What was the result that caught your eye the most this week? And I've got a feeling I know where you're headed, but I'll give it to you open-ended.
I mean, it had to be Ole Miss over South Carolina, right? That's what everyone's talking about this weekend. No, it was this agent of chaos that is Diego Pavia taking down Alabama a week after they were up 28-0 and then ultimately beat Georgia. I mean, the duality of college football and that instance in particular is sensational this year. And we saw the first half, right? And we've seen this story so many times with, you have one good half, but the more talented team's going to come out in the second half. They're going to blow your doors off, and they're going to win by 8 points, 10 points, whatever. And Vanderbilt just never went away. And even when Alabama pushed back on them, they still just never went away. And a lot of the credit is because of Diego Pavia, but like their team, obviously he's just one guy. Their team, their defense, everybody stepped up for Vanderbilt. They're kind of like this pesky thorn in the side. Are they going to make the college football playoff? No. But if you just care about SEC football, like they are going to be such a pain in some teams' rear ends as you get to November and December when you have got to have it games and you have Vanderbilt on your schedule thinking, oh, great, here we go.
Yeah, that happens in Baton Rouge. Vanderbilt will come here the second to last week of the season, so that's speaking right to our audience here in the capital city. Anything that you would suggest that's an issue for the Alabama program, or just one of those Saturdays that you just hope never shows up?
I think it was just one of those Saturdays, right? I mean, like they played so well against Georgia, and then that comeback, and it was a classic letdown spot. It just happened to be against a team where for years you never get let down playing Vanderbilt. They're the bottom of the barrel in the SEC. So in those letdown spots, we get Vanderbilt, we're going to whoop them by 30. Yep. But because this team is just built a little differently, I feel like it's just one of those Saturdays. Obviously, you want Jalen Milroe to be better. I mean, we had this conversation. Oh, he's in the Heisman conversation. I think he was like plus 200 at most sports books entering the weekend in the Heisman conversation. Then he has a performance that was okay, but certainly wasn't great. You want more consistency from your quarterback, but I think it was really more than anything just one of those Saturdays that came at a bad time.
What are we supposed to make of Miami? they keep coming out alive, but it's not a work of art.
I don't know. You know, I wish I could give you a better answer. I really like Cam Ward, but I really don't trust Mario Cristobal, and I think that's their issue, right? Because their quarterback is good. But you look at their coaching staff, and it's just kind of a shoulder shrug of, I don't trust you guys in big moments. And like that Cal, I don't know if I would call Cal was like a tough environment to play. Not in 2024, at least. You know, maybe back in the 80s, sure. But I don't think that was like a tough environment to play in. And they came out exceptionally flat. Like maybe because you're going across the country, like it's this weird thing, right? Like they're going to suffer because of this new revamped ACC. But at a certain point, like, you need to be able to overcome that if you're going to win a national championship or at least be in that conversation. And ultimately they did, but if you're playing a better team and you're down the amount that they were down, you're not coming back in those situations. So I'm a little worried about them. I don't really know who the best team in college football is right now. I think it's Texas, but I haven't had that confirmed, and certainly not if Quinn Ewers is around. But Miami, I don't think they're in that conversation right now. I thought they were 2 weeks ago, but I've changed my tone up a little bit with them.
I'll tell you who's not the best team in college football. That's the USC Trojans, who went to Minnesota and got beat 24-17. Should that send some concerns Baton Rouge way that USC's looked that poor the last couple of weeks?
Maybe a little bit, but I think USC is now coming into the reality that you have to be physical every single week. I feel like it's really easy to like get up to be physical one week. But then when you have to consistently do it, all of a sudden the enthusiasm goes away a little bit. And I think that's kind of what USC is running into right now. It was really easy to get amped up to play LSU on Sunday night when you're the only game on television and you are the main event. Like, that's an easy thing to get excited for. It's a lot more difficult to get excited to go play Minnesota in the first weekend of October. And I think that's what we're seeing here. They have some things going in the right direction, but it's not easy to jump from one conference to another conference where the play style is so drastically different. That, I think, is what we're seeing with USC right now. So I don't think LSU should be worried about how bad they're playing, although you do want them to start playing better. So when you get to the point where we start looking at quality wins and schedules and all these things in November and December, that loss looks better than it could potentially look if USC really starts dropping a ton.
Arkansas 19, Tennessee 14 in Fayetteville. That's not a good enough offensive showing for Josh Heupel's crew. How shocking was that?
I was surprised because I thought Nico I was good. And it's that was a result, Hunt, where like, if you ever, taking pictures, right, shot with a camera, and you have the manual focus on, where all it takes is just a little twisting and turning, and a blurry picture becomes super focused. Well, I felt like the first couple of weeks, now looking back at it for Tennessee, were rather blurry, and then you shifted just a little bit and say, well, go win a game if you're Nico I. You're this upstart quarterback. Everybody loves you. Go win a game. And he had an opportunity to go win a game, and I was I was really disappointed with that final play. I mean, I didn't know you could, strike out looking in football, but on a fourth down and your quarterback runs it for 3 yards, like, guy, you got to throw that into the end zone. I don't care if you throw it to 12 dudes in there. You have to throw that into the end zone. That was incredibly disappointing. Hopefully a learning moment, but, I mean, yuck.
I blew a gasket in my first hour on that. We were talking about the SEC games. I can't listen and say, well, it's his first year starting or it's only the second year. You learn that when you're 10. There's no more time left and you're losing by 4 points. You have to try to score. You don't get any points for running out of bounds. That was just shocking to me that he did that. Speaking of shocking, I don't know if shocking is the right word, but SMU is now 5-1, and the only ranked team they have left on the schedule is a home game against Pitt. Is this a team that could be a playoff team?
In an ACC that is very, very weird, absolutely. Depending on how you feel about Miami, which you and I don't seem to feel exceptionally great about them, somebody has to get in from the ACC. Like, we will get one of those teams in there. So considering, I mean, maybe Clemson is, gotten better. I don't know how much I still trust Cade Klubnik, beating Florida State. Okay, like with DJU, without DJU, they don't have a quarterback, so that's not all that impressive. I think SMU they're a fun team. I think there is a real potential, especially considering they don't have to play Clemson on that schedule. So if you're getting them for the first time in the ACC championship game, all you got to do is go out there and beat them once. I think there is some real potential that SMU, who I'm sure feels like they got screwed last year by Liberty getting in. I loved it personally as a Liberty grad, but I'm sure they didn't love it that much. I bet they're playing with a chip on their shoulder here. So they've been a fun team to watch. And that game against Louisville, outside of all the crazy, upsets that really, really matter, but that was a fun game in that early window.
Ohio State at Oregon, number 2 against number 3. My opinion is that the winner is in the playoff. They're not going to fall flat after this win and being 6-0. So I think there's a playoff spot that'll be locked up in that game. Ohio State's a 3.5-point road favorite. Who do you like?
I like Ohio State. I would love to pick Oregon in this one, but I got burned 2 times last year with Oregon and Washington. Somehow I was dumb enough to take them twice, and it failed drastically. And I just have not loved what I've seen from Oregon in terms of execution. Now, with Ohio State, they really haven't played anybody that gives you a true litmus test as to what they are. I mean, they beat Iowa really, really impressively, but at the same time, Iowa's offense is so bad that even if their defense is awesome, eventually, if they can't score, the defense is going to crack and break. So I don't really know what Ohio State is, but I at least have been more impressed with the way they have played offensively than I have been with Oregon so far this year. I need Dylan Gabriel to play really, really well, because the start of his game this past weekend on Friday night against Michigan State was abysmal. I need him to play really, really well to justify them going out and getting him. Oregon has a lot of pressure, but I like Ohio State in this one.
Classic SEC football in the Red River rivalry coming up on Saturday. Texas and Oklahoma. You give the Sooners any shot? They're 2 touchdown dogs.
No, not at all. Especially considering that Quinn Ewers should be back by
Yes.
then. I mean, Arch Manning is a fun story. If Quinn Ewers is healthy, Texas is definitively the best team in college football. I just need to see that. I just need to see him healthy. But if he's healthy, I mean, Oklahoma does not have a quarterback. Their defense is strong, kind of similar to like what I just said about Iowa. Their defense is really good. I mean, their offense is better than Iowa's offense because your local high school team's offense is better than Iowa's offense. But I don't give Oklahoma much of a shot here. There's something about this Texas team. They're really, really good. And if Quinn Ewers is healthy, I mean, good luck to the Sooners.
All right, and then right here in Baton Rouge, Ole Miss comes to town. They're 2.5-point favorites in Tiger Stadium. It'll be a night kickoff at 6:30. Give LSU a shot in that one?
I definitely do, especially considering the way that Ole Miss played against Kentucky 2 weeks ago. I know they got right against South Carolina, but I think that game against Kentucky really humanized them in a sense. Jackson Dart had his name in the conversation with that Joe Burrow 2019 year. He was on the graphic with that Mac Jones year, and then you play a team that's in your conference and you look like an absolute shell of yourself. So I give LSU a real good opportunity. They just they got to play better on defense, because you know that Lane Kiffin is going to be throwing the ball around the yard, so their guys got to cover on the outside.
Tigers and Rebels, 6:30 coming up on Saturday. After it's all final college football overtime, Sirius XM Radio Denton Day every single Saturday, and he's with us every Monday. Thanks, man.
Hunt, appreciate it as always.
All right, we'll take one more time out, come back and close out the Monday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, nearly 4 decades redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. You got one of those big, huge jacuzzi-style tubs, but you don't ever really use it. That space is an awesome spot for a walk-in shower. Go ahead and take that tub out, put the shower in. Another thing that David Duvall and his team do a lot of is if you got one of those small showers, real small little square, they make that a closet when you go ahead and put that shower where that bathtub was. So those are the kind of things that can add some value to your home. They can change the functionality of your bathroom, change the aesthetic of your bathroom as well. Spend a lot of time in there. You might as well class it up a little bit. One Bath and Closets is happy to help you do that. It starts with a free consultation with David Duvall and his team. Sit down, explain what you're looking for, and they tell you what they can do. And if you're concerned about payment, financing options are very much available for 18 months at One Bath and Closets, 0%. You got to ask them about it. Get that consultation with David Duvall and his team. Tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you over there to OneBathAndClosets.com. It's One Bath and Closets, OneBathAndClosets.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
One 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and Shell are excited to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Tiger Stadium with our Draw to 100 sweepstakes. We're giving you the opportunity to join the VIP-style celebrations this weekend, October 12th, for the Ole Miss game. Sign up today at 1045ESPN.com. We'll live stream the drawing on October 10th. That is this Thursday, and the 100th name drawn will win Stadium Club seats, sideline passes, and autographed memorabilia. It's the Draw to 100 sweepstakes presented by Shell, the rhythm of Louisiana.
All right, closing up shop here, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Gulf Coast Office Products. Shout out to our guy Trey Beal and the folks at Gulf Coast Office Products. No matter what industry you're in, no matter what vertical market you are in professionally, Trey Beal's got clients that do the same thing, and he understands the needs of your specific industry when it comes to printing, scanning, and copying. So if you haven't given any thought to why you have the printers, scanners, and copiers that you have, maybe call Trey Beal and see if that's the best situation for you. They've got an incredible group of people over there. Got so many resources, over $1 million of machines here in Baton Rouge. And wherever you are in the state of Louisiana, they can help service your needs from a printing, scanning, and copying perspective. If you've got an issue and there's one that's down, you got to get back up. They understand time of year, busy seasons, and they can have one delivered to you that day. Awesome customer service over there at Gulf Coast Office Products. Check them out online, gcopnet.com, gcopnet.com. I'm fired up for this week, y'all. It's going to be a fun one. I know I talked about it at the top of the show, how this is going to be a big week for LSU as far as a proving ground. Are you ready to play with some of the big boys in the SEC, or is your defense still inept? And that's kind of what we're going to find out. We'll be talking about it certainly all week long. Brian Kelly met with the media today. We'll have LSU player interviews tomorrow after practice. SEC teleconference coming up Wednesday. Brian Kelly will have his last availability on Thursday, and we'll be covering it right here for you on the Hunt Palmer Show and certainly over on LouisianaSports.net as well. Talking about the Saints. We'll be out at LeBear's tonight. Matt's about to do his show from LeBear's inside the ESPN Bet Sportsbook, and it should be a really fun time. So if you're just knocking off of work and you're looking for somewhere to watch the black and gold tonight, come on out and see us at LeBear's inside ESPN Bet. It's going to be a heck of a time. All right, Beck, let's play some Take It or Leave It.
Alrighty, first one here. Cleveland Browns, as we talked about earlier, they obviously lost to the Commanders. They got dominated 34-13. They're not good. The $230 million man, Deshaun Watson, was and has been pretty below average. He hasn't thrown for more than 200 yards in a game. And is tied for the lowest average yards per pass attempt and has been sacked 26 times. Jameis time in Cleveland. Take it or leave it.
I don't like your options, Cleveland. Deshaun not playing great. Jameis, I don't know if I want to trust him with the keys to the franchise. I think you're just going to be terrible. You're going to lose a lot of games. The question really becomes not whether or not Jameis becomes the quarterback, because no one really cares what's going on with the Browns. The question is, are they going to cut Deshaun Watson and take the biggest dead money hit in the history of professional sports?
Well,
that is the question.
It is, and I think it's kind of crazy to think this, but are they hoping that this latest accusation that came against him is going to give him maybe some pause to
I don't know what the contract says.
I don't know.
And what. It's not good.
No, it's not. It's probably, I think it's already safe to say, the worst contract in sports history.
They needed, because everyone's aware of the bad PR situation that it created, but it had to work out where he played great and everybody just swallowed their pride and said, okay, it's fine. Did I love Aroldis Chapman before he came to the Cubs? No. Did I love the fact that he took a gun and shot everything up in the garage when his girlfriend was there? Not my favorite thing, but hey, he puts on the pinstripes and we're pitching in Game 7. I got to have some outs, so let's get it done. You just kind of turn a blind eye, but when it goes this badly, it's bad for everybody involved, and the Browns are in big trouble.
Yeah, they are, and that's a dodge bullet for the Saints, because apparently they were interested, I think, in Deshaun Watson. So probably a good thing they didn't get involved in those sweepstakes. But next one here, LeBron and Bronny shared the court for the first time last night in a losing effort. The Lakers lost to the Suns 118-114. Bronny was 0 for 1 with 4 turnovers and 3 fouls in 13 minutes.
Oh, my gosh.
He also played in their game.
Is that real?
It is. He also played in their last game against the Timberwolves. So this was on last weekend. And he played 16 minutes, was 1 for 6 with 3. He actually had 3 blocks. That's interesting. But 1 for 6 with 1 turnover, 2 points in that game. So the farce continues. Take it or leave it.
Take it. It is completely a farce. And I shouldn't care as much about this as I maybe do. I mean, I clearly don't care that much because I didn't even know they played last night. I was watching baseball. But it's such a ridiculous situation. And everyone is aware of how ridiculous it is.
Yep.
And it just continues. I'm curious to see if they put him out on the floor in an actual NBA game. I can't imagine that they will do that, but
they have to at least once. I don't know if they're
of course he'll play at some point, literally, but is he going to be out there in the third quarter of their second game?
That's the question.
That is my question. It should not happen. Baseball's been awesome. The playoff baseball has been so good. I love it. I miss the agony that goes with it when the Cubs are in, or I'm watching LSU. But just being an interested observer from the outside and watching the way these Mets games have gone has just been incredible. The AL takes center stage today, so we'll see how all of that goes from a baseball perspective. That's it for us today on a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound. You can certainly find us. Search Hunt Palmer Show. Like, subscribe, rate, review. We always appreciate that. Open the show today talking about the craziness in the Southeastern Conference and my reaction to all of that. Ross Jackson was with us at 1:30, getting you ready for Saints and Chiefs. Ross is on site there, obviously with Locked On, as well as LouisianaSports.net. Hour number 2, we had some Brian Kelly audio. I gave my Saints pick. I like the Chiefs tonight by a score. And then Denton Day, I was with us talking some college football. I'll tell you this, you were 5 minutes away from Matt probably talking about what happened in Nashville over the weekend. I would stick around for that. We'll be at LeVar's tonight, back here, same time, same place tomorrow. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment